In today's video, we're going to speak about the future of the DC cinematic universe. Over the weekend, we've had some pretty interesting developments, and we now know the real reason why Henry Cavill isn't returning as Superman, and it's not even the reason that James Gunn tried to feed us with the "we're going with a young Superman, but you're keeping on Jason Momoa, cool." And also, we're going to go over a few other DC-related stories here and there. So yo, what is freaking good, YouTube? Warstu here. If you are new around here, make sure to subscribe to never miss any of the Marvel, DC, pop culture based stories that we cover on this channel. If you could subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, and let me know down below. Do you think this is the real reason why James Gunn doesn't want to work with Henry Cavill? And also check us out on Twitter, WarstuG, and also check us out on Instagram at Warstu to see the beautiful face behind the beautiful voice. So, Jason Momoa indirectly has kind of confirmed the real reason why James Gunn doesn't want to work with Henry Cavill. Now, initially, we did report on this channel that the real reason why they were doing a full cast reboot, which now it looks like they're barely going to recast anyone, was to do with money. And sure, Warner Bros. Discovery is in just under $50 billion worth of debt, which is kind of standard for big corporations. A lot of you probably don't know, Walt Disney is in huge ass debt as well, and they're not particularly making money back either. So, Jason Momoa is 43 years old. Zachary Levi is also quite old. All these old actors, okay, they're not actually old, but let's just go with this young Superman narrative. So, James Gunn wants a really young Superman, yet he's cool to keep his buddy Zachary Levi on because Pete Safran's the producer of Shazam too. Don't get me wrong, Pete Safran's a really cool guy. I had a brief conversation with him at the UK premiere for Shazam, but I'm not buying this narrative that he's too old, because what James Gunn said next really does contradict himself. So he's been getting heat because basically people seem to think that he's going to bring the Guardians of the Galaxy crew over to be the new Justice League. And don't get me wrong, I do think Chris Pratt could be a cool Green Lantern. I do think I do think she could be pretty cool. Dave Bautista, I think he could be an awesome Bane. Don't get me wrong, but he's been getting fire because of this. So, someone on Twitter said, please do not encourage the Guardians of the Galaxy cast to follow you to the DCEU. Find fresh actors that craft brilliant characters and forge new memories for audiences. Instead of swimming in the same muddy pond, I know I'm not alone in feeling that way. Rebirth, not reuse, please. And don't get me wrong, I do somewhat agree with what he's saying. If you're going to get rid of the Don, of the top G, of the greatest Superman, of the most iconic figure, of an actual actor who loves the source material, of an actual actor who was proud to play Superman, an actual actor that knows more about Superman than most of the directors and most of the scriptwriters that are going to be working on said Superman plot. And then you come out and say this. To me, he's firing some shots here at The Rock, definitely, because The Rock doesn't fit into phase one. I'm not buying that either. There is definitely some behind the scenes drama that is the catalyst of why Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson, and Superman, Henry Cavill, will no longer be part of DC Studios universe, it looks like. Now let's just go over this. We have hundreds of roles to cast, as I've always done. Some will be brand new faces. Some will be actors I've worked with before, and some will be actors, who I've never worked with. Now this is the important part here. I feel like he's throwing shade, and he's confirming the real reason why he's recasting Superman and doing this boring, generic, it's not an origin story, mate. James Gunn, mate. It is an origin story. Why? Because we're going to be introduced to a new Lois, most likely. You're not going to have, the same Lois we had with the Henry Cavill Superman. So you're going to cast younger people all around, and you're going to have a new Daily Planet. So it's going to be an origin movie. Unless we've seen this Superman before, it's got to be an origin story. What? Is it going to be a fully developed Superman who's OP level, who's done all this crazy stuff in the past that we're just going to have flashback scenes? No, it's an origin story. What matters most is the actor fits the role. The actor fits the role, okay? Beforehand, you're backtracking, lad. Stop it. Behave. You said beforehand, the story is what matters the most. Now it's the actor fits the role. Nobody fits the role of Superman and looks like Superman like Henry Cavill does. Sorry, Brandon Ruth. Sorry, Tyler Hoechlin. You ain't got nothing on Henry Cavill Superman. So, what matters most is the actor fits the role. Dwayne Johnson, don't get me wrong, Black Adam, I think it was a good movie, wasn't perfect, didn't make much money at the box office, but if we go by this description, The Rock is a good Black Adam. Henry Cavill, great Superman. And here's the punchline here, and here's what I think is the upper echelon. And they're easy to work with. They're easy to work with. So did all the behind-the-scenes drama with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson going over the studio heads at the time, which would be, Walter Hamada at the time was the head of the studio, went over his head to go to Pam and Michael DeLuca to get Henry Cavill Superman in? Is this the case? There is some drama behind the scenes. There definitely is. So let me get this straight. If they pay Henry Cavill $250,000 to do the Superman role in Black Adam, damn, that's good money, seeing as he was only in the movie for literally 10 seconds. And it's also a shame that's going to be the last time we see him. No one's scared. No one's scared people for a long time. And then they paid him $250,000 to do the Flash cameo. Although he's also in the Flash in another capacity, kind of. And careful spoilers, I don't want to ruin your life, but essentially in the Flash movie, he was going to be in the Speed Force, and Barry Adams go, oh, that's where you've been. That's why we've not seen you such a long time. So they paid Henry Cavill $500,000 to do 2 cameos, but all of a sudden now, what matters the most is the actor fits the role. This whole story doesn't line up. And I get it, they've got to save money. But here's where this story really is cemented. I've been told it's all to do with money, why they don't want to pay Gal Gadot $20 million to do Wonder Woman 3, and they don't want to pay Henry Cavill $10 million plus to do Man of Steel 2, and Jason Momoa comes into the equation. And everyone's like, yo, he's Lobo. So a lot of people are criticizing Jason Momoa, and Jason Momoa is in his 40s. He's not young. So Aquaman 1 made over $1 billion gross, not profit, over $1 billion gross. So Jason comes in and basically sucks up to the new studio heads. I'm just reading what I'm hearing on Twitter. I'll always be Aquaman, says Jason Momoa. Ain't anyone coming in and taking my shit. All right, yet your boy, your actual boy, Jason, you've called Henry Cavill your boy, right? Yet you're perfectly cool with your good friends, and all of a sudden, all these people are very good friends with Pete Safran and James Gunn. I get it, Pete Safran worked in Aquaman, but how is James Gunn Aquaman, Jason Momoa's boy? No one's coming in and taking your role. Of course you're not going to say you're being fired before your movie comes out at the end of the year. The same with Zachary Levi. Recently been on a holiday with the new studio heads, hasn't he? Oh, ironic. Suck it up to the new studio heads. So, Shazam and Aquaman are not being recast allegedly. There might be some other characters too I can play. Other things too. I can be funny, savage, and charming. Okay, don't get me wrong. I would love to see Jason Momoa play Lobo. But if you read this quote, this screams to me, are we getting a DCEU multiverse? So let me get it straight. You're going to have Jason Momoa Aquaman and Jason Momoa Lobo in the same universe via the multiverse, which could be cool. Now, don't get me wrong, he could just be doing Lobo on the animation. That would be cool as well. But I do find it funny how we get this whole quote. What matters the most is the actor fits the role and they're easy to work with. That is the real reason why Henry Cavill is no longer Superman. I'm not buying this young Superman story. Either it's a forced agenda, let's just come up with a reason why Henry Cavill can no longer be Superman, because you got the old baggage with the old regime. You got a Henry Cavill who is loved, has the chin for it, has the physique for it, actually knows the source material better than James Gunn. And the most interesting part of this puzzle is James Gunn said 2 years ago he didn't want to do the Superman movie because of the backlash you'd get from doing it if it wasn't right. But all of a sudden now he's head of the whole studio. There's a lot of inconsistencies in this whole story. Now, has Jason got free reign because his first movie made so much money? I don't know. But what happens if Aquaman 2 absolutely flops and doesn't even break 500? Is he still going to get free reigns because he's easy to work with and he fits the role so amazingly? I do find it funny when these variety fluff pieces come out, because I don't call them a trade anymore. It's a fluff piece. The headline, Jason Momoa on DC meeting with James Gunn. I'll always be Aquaman and I might play other characters too. So you're not letting Henry Cavill play Superman, yet you're going to let Jason Momoa play multiple roles. Jason Momoa is literally fanboying over the new studio heads and over David Zaslav. But why? Why is Jason Momoa being given free reign and Henry Cavill isn't? Now, are they trying to save money? We don't know. Allegedly, Jason Momoa was paid $15 million for his role in Aquaman 2. And then you're like, oh, so Gal was going to get paid $20 million for Wonder Woman 3. I don't think this whole Warner Bros. Discovery has no money. It's not actually to do with the actors' pay. It's to do with the production costs overall. Just look at how much money they're overspending on the Flash movie, but allegedly they've got no money. So I'm not buying this mainstream narrative that Henry Cavill is no longer Superman because we're going with a younger Superman. And then he comes out and says, what matters the most is the actor fits the role and they're easy to work with. And we've all heard the rumors that Henry Cavill isn't easy to work with. But again, I'm not buying that. The issue he had with The Witcher was they were not sticking to the lore at all. They weren't sticking to the source material at all. What actor doesn't want input on their character they're playing on the given movie? That's kind of standard. Most actors want creative control and actually want credit for being behind their character on said credits for said movie. So James Gunn needs to stop talking on Twitter because this whole statement contradicts the whole we're going with a younger Superman. It's not an origin storyline, but it is because we've never met the new Superman. We've never met the Daily Planet and all the people that work there. We've never met anyone to do with this new Superman story. And then going, oh, but they already know Wonder Woman and they already know Batman. It's still an origin story, whatever way you want to spin it. So, a lot of people get annoyed because James Gunn says the slate was getting announced this month. He didn't actually say that. He said we're going to reveal some new details about what we're doing going forward in January. And he's like, yeah, we're still doing that this month. And I get it. This is a 31-day month. And he's right. There is still over 7, 8-ish days left. And I think a lot of people are expecting too much from said reveal. We know they have a lot of movies coming out this year. We know we've got Joker 2 coming out next year. So they're not really going to be shooting anything new probably to the end of the year. You probably won't see a new DCU movie on the new slate till at least 2025-ish at a guess. I really hope they cast Charlie Hunnam as the Green Arrow. And for what I want to know is Green Arrow, make Arrow on the new slate. Put Arrow on the new slate. He's been backburned for too long. So no one fits the role of Superman more than Henry Cavill. What matters the most is the actor fits the role and they're easy to work with. James Gunn, you need to hire a PR company and get them to talk for you on Twitter because you keep contradicting everything you say about casting and how the universe is going to work. We get it. You want to bring people in you've worked with before, not necessarily because they're easy to work with, because they're your friends and you want to hire your friends and you want to look after your friend in a professional capacity of people who you've worked with before. It's nothing to do with being easy to work with. That is absolute nonsense. So, careful for spoilers. I don't want to ruin your life, but this whole Superman narrative, it's not even true. You just didn't want Henry Cavill to be Superman. Maybe because of all the behind the scenes drama, allegedly, with Dwayne Johnson and how the whole cameo role worked. But that happened before James Gunn and Pete Safran came in October. Like, the Superman scene was filmed before that. So I really hope one day they actually come out and say the real reason. Because as I said before, sorry, Tyler Hoechlin. I know people like your Lois and Superman show. Sorry, Brandon Ruth. I know people like your variation. But there ain't no Superman like Henry Cavill who actually cares about the role. There's a lot of nonsense going around the community at the moment. But James Gunn keeps exposing himself by contradicting himself. So like always, guys, check us out on Instagram at Warstu to see the beautiful face behind the beautiful voice. Check us out on Twitter, WarstuG. As I'm trying to grow my Twitter account, I've only got like 10 followers. And I will catch ya in another video very soon. Catch ya later.